Hello my friends, it's 2nd of January 2022, new year, new luck, hopefully less corona and more riding. Today I want to give you a 50,000 kilometer review of my KTM 790 Adventure R, or how I'm calling it, the RS, because it has a few S components like the lower two-part seat and low front fender from the S model or from the non-R model, depending on how you call it. I've had that bike since March 2019. It was one of the first ones to come to Sweden. So probably first production batch that left the factory in Mattighofen in early 2019. And I've almost done, as I said, 50,000 kilometers on it, which is a little bit funny because when I was not too late recently in a KTM shop trying to get new brake pads, the guy asked me there, so how many kilometers do you have on the bike? And I said, well, almost, I think it was at that time 40,000, and he looked at me, 40,000? Wow, we haven't had a bike like that so far. So it seems like I've been riding quite a lot, even under these slightly limiting conditions we have seen during the last 2 seasons. So how did it go with my KTM 790? So actually, under these 50,000 kilometers there have only been really 2 problems. One is well known, one is well documented, and that is actually the TFT display, which exhibited some condensation here in the corners. So it was replaced on warranty, but unfortunately it seems like KTM doesn't manage to build really waterproof displays, which is a shame. I think it's not KTM themselves doing them, they're probably coming from some external supplier. But even the new one already has some condensation inside. And you might not see it actually, I'm at 49,144 kilometers, so it's a bit more than 500, which I said before. I'm missing about 800, 900 kilometers to get over 50,000. So, but I'm quite close, so I think 50,000 review is legitimate right now. So the display was the one problem. The second problem was that one of the fork seals, I don't remember which one, I think it was the left one, left one or right one, I don't remember actually, that one of these fork seals actually gave up and started leaking at 30,000 kilometers. And it was a bit unfortunate because I was on traveling with the bike at that moment in the south of Sweden. And it wasn't really easy getting a replacement, believe it or not. I went to a dealer actually which had sold me the bike, we were close by, and we didn't have the fork seals in stock. I found that quite ridiculous. It's a standard part that frequently needs to be replaced on bikes, so why don't we have that in stock? Instead what he did was to recall for the rear brake where some fitting on the brake line wasn't very stable, so KTM recommended to replace that one. He did that recall instead, which made me quite happy again. But still I don't understand why we didn't have the fork seals in stock, so I needed to ride for 2 more days, 3 more days with this leaking seal. The trick is then to put some toilet paper or something, some tissue around it in a cable tie, so that it catches the oil coming down, which doesn't go down to the brakes in the worst case and ruins your brake pads, because these will be hard to clean again if it's a major leak. But then 3 days later at another dealer even further south I could get the seal replaced, and since then I have had these neoprene socks over it, which I have removed right now, which actually keep dust outside. So the tip is really frequently take off the dust seal here and clean it below, which I hadn't done frequently enough, obviously. And KTM refused warranty on the seal, of course, because they say it's a wear part, it's a consumable, so there is no warranty at any kilometers. Maybe if it happens at 100 kilometers, I don't know. Maybe they will replace it then on warranty, but normally there's no warranted replacement for parts like that. I'm now also in my second set of chain and sprocket, so that first one was good for about 30,000 kilometers. That was a little bit of a story also, because I had the bike in for the big 30,000 kilometer service on my way home from a long vacation, which was several thousand kilometers to the north of Sweden. And actually I got the bike back without any remark from the dealer, verbal remark from the dealer about my chain, and I had checked it before I had left on this trip and it was still okay-ish. But then I got the bike back, and the weekend after that service I actually was riding, speeding up, and it went, and I go, what's that? So I took off the cover and there were hardly any of the teeth left there, so it was really worn out. So I was really pissed with that dealer that they didn't tell me you need to replace the chain, or we recommend you that we replace the chain here right now. Actually, we made a note on the bill in very small print, and then we put the receipt over that also with a paper clip. So I didn't see that remark. Okay, the dealer noted it, but I would have really wished that the dealer called me and said, hey, your bike is not safe anymore to ride. You could lose the chain anytime. Let us replace the chain. We give you a special price maybe, or something like that. But we don't really recommend you to drive another 500 kilometers home, because that's what I did. And then I even started a little trip over the next, I think it was a day trip only for the next weekend. But anyway, the chain lasted 30,000 kilometers, which is quite okay, regarding that I'm riding a lot of dusty roads, gravel roads and stuff, where the dirt really accumulates and wears out the sprocket. I have also put on a slightly smaller sprocket. I think the standard one is 16 teeth, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm running a 15 now, because the 790 engine is quite easy to stall, and it's nicer to have a little bit of a shorter transmission. So smaller front sprocket. You don't need to do anything about the chain, you can compensate that with the rear wheel adjustment. Maybe it makes more sense to go for a larger rear sprocket instead of a smaller front, because that will wear even faster. But it gives you a little bit higher RPM. It will reduce your top speed, but that's not an issue, because anyway, I'm not a fast rider. I'm not doing highway speeds here, German Autobahn for example. Sweden, the legal speed limit is a maximum of 120, and the bike easily does that even with a smaller sprocket. So let's talk a moment about tires. The R model comes by default, at least the 790 came, and I think it's still the 890 also, with the Metzeler Karoo 3 tires, which I think are quite okay for my riding style, but tires you can have long discussions about those, with depending very much on your riding style, on the environment, on the kind of ground you're riding on, and on the need for long mileage also of these tires. I'm a really long distance rider. As I said, a vacation for me, a 4-week vacation, can easily cover 8,000 kilometers. So the first set of these Karoos had done about 8,000 kilometers, and they would probably have been good for another 1,000. But I needed to throw them off simply because I had this vacation coming up. So in that case I went to a Motos tractionated GPS, which is said to be quite a long-living tire, which has a middle strip. Just like you might know the Heidenau K60 for example, which I've been using quite often also. Of course it doesn't have the grip on wet ground as the Karoos have, or as for example the next tire I had on it was a Motos Tractionator Adventure, which is a much rougher profile. All these tires last me something, I would say 6,000–7,000 kilometers, around that. With the Heidenau K60s I have managed, like on even big bikes like the 990 Adventure, to get unbelievable 20,000 kilometers out of it. But again, I'm not a racer, I'm an explorer, so it's a different story if you ride aggressive, open up the gas at every corner, after every corner, or if you take a little bit safer approach, maybe traveling approach, exploring approach, and drive a little bit slower. But these tires have all been quite good. I went back to the Karoo 3 simply because I could get that for a reasonable price. I'm not sure what I would put on now as a next tire. Heidenau has come with a K60 Ranger, but we say this lasts only for 4–5,000 kilometers, and that is not really a tire for me, because that would mean with a season of between 15 and 20,000 kilometers I would need 4–5 sets of tires. So that's a financial aspect also. So I need a tire that lasts long, and I'm willing to make compromises on the performance, because in a long trip like 8,000 kilometers to the Barents Sea in Northern Norway, I have no way of getting a motorcycle tire up there to change it. I could send it up there maybe and change it myself, but buying one up there is basically impossible. So let's talk a moment about cost of ownership for that bike. You might know the service intervals already are well published. They are the very first service, which is basically just an oil change and a little bit checking screws and stuff, at 1,000 kilometers. If you're lucky, you can negotiate that with your dealer. I've managed to do that once, unfortunately not always. Shouldn't cost the dealer too much. It's like, I think, 1.5, 2 hours of work. Second service is done at 15,000 kilometers, which will get more expensive. Hello, hello. Just a little YouTube video going on here. And then you have the large service, which is at 30,000 kilometers, which is getting quite expensive because then we also need to check the valves. That was my neighbor, by the way, passing by here. So actually, the shop I went to, the first one, tried to rip me off with that first service. They told me we would probably want around 3,000 krona, Swedish crowns for it, which I find is already quite a significant price for that work. Other shops which were further away than Stockholm charged about 2,600. But okay, it's Stockholm prices, so I could accept that. However, when I came there, we suddenly wanted 4,000 for that, and I said, why? Oh, we always do a little extra to make our customers extra happy. And I said, okay, what exactly have you done then? Because there's a checklist and there's a timetable published by KTM on their webpage, which you can check, which tells you what needs to be done and how long time that takes for a trained service technician to do that. And they finally gave me the 1,000 back, and I can tell you this was the second time they tried that with me. We had tried the same trick 2 years before with another bike. So I remembered that vividly, and I'm not going to set another foot in that shop anymore. Anyway, that service, first service will be something around 250-300 euros, I guess. The 15,000 is then a bit more work because we do the oil change. I think we do put in a new oil, a new air filter, and the oil filters, and a bit more work. But you can check the times for these services on the KTM homepage. And if I remember right, that is something like 4,000, 4,500. Then every 40,000 kilometers it gets quite expensive because then the tank needs to come off and we get into the engine to check the valve clearance. That's quite a significant job. Hopefully do not need to adjust them because I think it's a shimmed valve drive system, so then it's even more work. That one cost me actually a shocking 700 euros to do, and that was without the chain and the final drive actually. So be prepared, but it's 15,000 kilometers then for the small service, which you can easily do yourself because mostly is oil and stuff, and then it's the 30,000 kilometer service, and you need also make sure that, for example, the brake fluid and stuff is changed frequently. I have to admit I'm quite keen on doing some motorcycle work, but I'm not doing everything. I have never opened an engine myself because most of the bikes I had are quite new and I want to keep the warranty, so I need to trust the dealers in the workshops. And for safety related things like the brakes, mainly with today's a little bit more complicated ABS systems, I'm not sure how easy it is to replace the brake fluid. Maybe I'll take the time sometime to learn that also, but so far at least the major services have been done by the shops, and then when the bike was out of warranty, the intermediate 15,000 kilometer services I did myself because an oil change is not really a very advanced job. Fuel consumption wise, as I said, I'm not a racer, even if I wear this team shirt right now. I'm more of an explorer type. I want to see what's around me a little bit also. So I'm not really rally style riding or something like that, in accelerating hard and braking down and accelerating hard at every opportunity. And that of course reduces fuel consumption quite significantly. Normally I'm around 4 liters on 100 kilometers. Now let's see if I can put that in the text how much miles per gallon that is, but it's quite a really good low fuel consumption. And with that 20-liter tank it should give me theoretically almost 500 kilometers of reach on that bike. I needed that only once this summer when I was in northern Norway actually, where I was missing one gas station, the next one was closed, and then it got slightly interesting if I managed it to the next one, but then I had still 2 liters left and I think I was at 430 kilometers or something like that. Really good from that point of view. So as a summary I can say I'm basically entirely happy with the 790 Adventure R. Some people say don't buy one of the first bikes coming out into the market, but there haven't been any really major issues with it. There have been these 2 callbacks from the factory, the one about the rear brake line and the other one about the front brake lever, and that's it. And otherwise it has never left me stranded. If I compare that to the Africa Twin, Honda Africa Twin CFR 1000L I had before, with its legendary Honda quality, that bike, for example, didn't start once after some days of rain. I needed to take apart the start switch because it was wet inside there. Quite annoying, not because it's a difficult job, but because there are some really tiny parts in there. If you lose that, you're fucked basically. You will not get away from there. It also had all the other child diseases like rusty spokes, like sticky switches, and worst, when the mechanic first did a valve check on that Africa Twin, he came back and said to me, hey, I really needed to call Honda and confirm these values because your valves were so far off that I didn't believe it. That had been a demo bike, so maybe somebody had mistreated it. But in contrast, everybody says, well, Honda legendary quality. In contrast, the KTM served me very well for these 50,000 kilometers. Now I need to come, well, I came already to a tough decision, which is keeping the bike and riding it on for a few more years. It will basically then have lost all its value. Will be quite worn out, or replace it now at almost 50,000 kilometers and get some money out, and I have decided for that last option. So on Friday the bike, that one, and also my Ducati Scrambler will go to a dealer here nearby, and I will hopefully then get in spring one of the very first Husqvarna Norden 901 adventure bikes coming to Sweden. Maybe something like February, March, I'm not sure, I need to ask him again. I'm hoping from that bike that with that suspension it has, it's a bit more comfortable, because I realized the suspension of the R is of course great, but I'm never even bringing it close to the limit. At the other hand, I would like to have a bit more comfortable, maybe softer suspension, but I still want sufficient suspension travel for bad roads. So the S model has not really been an option for me. And the 901 seems to sit nicely in the middle between the S and the R, and you all know it's basically an 890 with a different dress. So I'm really looking forward to that bike. It is a few kilos heavier, but the weight of that one hasn't been an issue, and another 7 kilos I think is not an issue either. At the other hand, it has a slightly lower seat height, so I think that will be a great bike for me. So next video in spring might be my first report about the Norden 901 as soon as I got one and have been riding a little bit with it. Okay, see you, bye.